Hi, I'm Jesse with Mastercam. In this video, I want to show you a brief overview of the enhancements for solid hull in Mastercam 2021. This is the core of a computer tower mold assembly. On level 1, I have a template of various portholes that get used in the parts we machine. For now, let's focus on the template model itself and how we can leverage it. A quick look at the solid history of the part makes it clear that this is a brick solid that was likely imported from another CAD software. This makes it very difficult to identify the separate features of the model and manipulate them in any way. To add some intelligence to this solid model, I'll use Add History and the new Custom Hole feature. Add History is located on the Model Prep tab. Once I've selected the solid, I need to make sure that the hole operations are turned on. I also need to verify that the maximum radius value is at least as large as the biggest hole I want to identify. I can do this by right-clicking in the field, choosing Radius of an Arc, then selecting the largest hole radius on the model. I'm going to round this value up to 50 just to be safe. Once I click OK, Mastercam tells me that it found 9 new features. If I look in the Solids Manager again, I can see that Mastercam has added new solid operations to the model. A great way to better understand what it recognized is to grab the stop op and slide it all the way to the top. This clearly shows all the holes were recognized, and Mastercam has not found any problems with converting them to custom solid hole operations. In this case, I need to add one of these port features to the marked locations on the mold core. I'll start with creating a template file that stores these portholes and their parameters. Then, I'll import them into the mold core solid as a feature. For this example, I'm only concerned with this hole. If I go into the Solids Manager and double-click the respective solid operation, its definition and parameters will be displayed in the hole dialog. There are extensive libraries of standard hole sizes and types, but in this case, I'll create a new hole category called Port Holes. I can add this current hole to the preset inside that template file and give it a name. I'll call it 12mm fitting and click OK to close the hole dialog. It's worth mentioning that the templates can be saved and used across multiple Mastercam sessions. The behavior is very similar to importing and exporting toolpath operations. Since I'm done creating my template, I can turn off level 1 and start adding the solid hole features to the mold core. From the Solids tab, I'll launch Solid Hole, then select the mold core as the target body. I'll also need to pick the plane that these features will align with. There are several options for picking a plane, but I'll use the face command since the holes need to be perpendicular to the shutoff face of the mold. Next, I need to pick the hole positions. Once those are selected, I can go into the template dropdown, and the port holes category is now available. I'll pick the 12mm fitting feature that I created earlier as a template. Once I click OK to close the hole dialog, the custom hole features are created. Something to keep in mind is that creating solid hole features like this makes them associative to the point that was used to locate them. This means that if I move any of the wireframe points I use to locate the holes, the solid hole that is associated with the point will move as well. The solid operation for the hole will be marked dirty, indicating that it needs to be regenerated. Once I regenerate it, I can see the hole was moved to the new location. Another helpful feature is that the solid hole's color is saved in the template when it's created. If you need to machine several custom hole types on a regular basis, this functionality lets you color code your hole templates. This means that when it's time to program your toolpaths, it's very easy to identify the different hole types, and you can even leverage functions like Mask on Color for easy drive geometry selection. There's one other new feature in Solid Hole that I'd like to show you, which is the new support for undercuts. I'll start by making one of the segments of my solid hole operation larger in diameter than the segments above and below it. Then I'll regenerate the solid. If I turn on translucency mode, I can see the undercut in the hole geometry. Making this change to the solid hole does not affect the template that I used. If I wanted to keep this change, I would have to save this as a separate template so I could use it again in the future. I hope this short demonstration has given you some insight into the new functionality in solid hole, custom hole types, and templates for Mastercam 2021. These options should prove useful and time-saving, as almost every CNC machine part contains at least a few hole features like this mold. And the time savings get even greater when you're working on an aerospace or energy component with hundreds of unique hole types and sizes.